Okay, I'd like to call this Cleveland Heights City Council meeting to order. It is June 2nd, 2025 at 8:05. Sorry about that. Eddie, the birthday girl, would you please call the roll?
Maddox. Here. Posh.
Here.
Larson. Here. Petrus. Here. Kuda.
Here.
Russell. Here. Cobb.
Here.
All right, no members to excuse for being absent. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to motion to add Resolution 112-2025 and 114-2025 to first readings for consideration of adoption, and to add Resolution 113-2025 to first readings only, and to add Resolution 97-2025 to second readings.
Second that.
All right, it's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is amended. Approval of the minutes. We had April 7th and April 21st. Any problems there? All right, then the minutes are approved. We have Sal Russo here who's going to update us on Grocery Outlet. Everybody wants to know what's going on. Oh, look at that. A round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Just like to start by saying thank you to council and the mayor. I think we put our agreement together last July before last August recess. And between August and December, so we had 4 months to basically do our work at the property. We tore out the mezzanine, separated utilities, replaced the roof, removed all of the rooftop HVAC units, and then we turned the space over to Grocery Outlet, their construction crew, in early December. And since then, they've been working almost every day, readying the store for the new operators. So everything inside is brand new. They brought new electrical service, all new HVAC, all new plumbing, all new refrigeration, fixtures, and it looks great. They're scheduled to open July 10th, which is a Thursday. In fact, the construction crews have only a couple more weeks before they turn it over to the store team that's going to begin stocking the shelves and putting the graphics up and the signage and everything else. So we're very excited. I did meet the independent owner operators. Their names are Michael Weber and Melissa Walsh, and they are originally from Big Bear, California. And they had a choice of which location they could choose. And after visiting Cleveland Heights, they chose Cleveland Heights. They said they had a great feel. They liked the neighborhood feel. They've moved into a home in University Heights, so a few miles away. And I was, with my background and my family's background in the business, I kind of quizzed them. Even though it was our first meeting, I kind of went right at them and asked a lot of questions, and I was generally impressed with. I think they recognize the opportunity they have. And I think they know what it's going to take. I think they're committed, and just the responses that they had to my questions, they were very insightful. I can't put a finger on it, but they just seemed intuitive, just from what they said about Cleveland compared to the other locations that they had a chance to get. They kind of seemed like they had already lived here and kind of knew how things work around here. So very encouraged, and obviously wish them all the best. And July 10, we'll be here before you know it. What else can I say? Beer and wine. I know they will carry beer and wine. I'm not sure if they'll have it available the day the store opens. But they are going through the process of getting the permit. And I think it's been a slight challenge just because of how it works in Ohio, and who the who the state wants the permit to actually be in. And you have the case where you have grocery outlet corporate, and then you have the independent owner operators, and they have to work out their own arrangement. But I've actually filled out the forms requested of me so that they can proceed with getting the license. So that was one of the questions that was kind of up in the air for a while. But I'm happy to answer any questions about grocery outlet, about the medical building next door and all the scaffolding that's currently there, and anything else really.
Councilman Maddox?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank your family for the commitment to finding a grocer to go into that space. I just recall how difficult it was in terms of the improvements that would need to happen in the investment, the cost, but being committed to having a grocer in that area to continue to serve folks. I just want to really just say thank you for that. I know that you guys caught a whole lot. Went through a lot of negotiations and meeting with a lot of different companies to make this happen. And I've been watching that work happen and knowing that you're doing that and doing the work on the facing and all of that at the same time. It's just great to see that investment. But I just want you to know we really, really do appreciate your family and the work that you guys have done and the commitment that you have to Cleveland Heights. There wasn't a time where we spoke that you weren't trying to lean in and really get the right grocer in that space to make sure that the community in that area could still get access to food. So thank you.
Councilman Posh?
Thank you, Anthony.
I also want to thank you. It's my daughter's favorite grocery store, and when she visits from San Francisco, I know that's where she's going to be. But I also want to thank you for the work that you've done in the medical building and that cornice replacement. It is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you can't see a whole lot of it with the scaffolding, but if you sort of poke around, it's historically accurate. I know it looks like there's fiberglass pieces or something in there. I don't think they're real pieces of stone anymore. So if they fall on someone, maybe they'll bounce. But I know that's not going to happen, and I really appreciate the work that you put in there, making it.
Thank you.
All right. Councilman Petrus?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank you again to echo what we've already heard. You overviewed for us all of the different stores that you reached out to. You and your family put so much time and effort into it, and I'm just grateful for your commitment to the neighborhood and city of Cleveland Heights. I know a lot of people are very excited for it to open. I am included, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Russo. We really appreciate it. And you're welcome here anytime. And we're glad that this is one of those things where a year ago you said it was going to be July and it's opening in
We're
July.
on schedule.
I mean, that's fantastic.
But before I leave, I just wanted to just mention that I know there's the project across from the Ascent is in the works or being discussed or planned, and I'm in support of it. Just as a merchant, as a stakeholder in the district, I like what I've seen so far with the housing project. My 2 cents.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Next, we have communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first thing that I would like to announce is that the investigation by the Bureau of Criminal Investigations at the state into the officer-involved shooting of Christian Taylor Thomas, that investigatory piece, the information and evidence gathering portion of that process has been completed. The materials have been turned over to the Office of Special Prosecutions at the Ohio Attorney General's office. And as I explained in my last State of the City, that process continues to the calling of a grand jury. The Special Prosecutions Unit will call a grand jury in July, at which point they will present this evidence and materials from the investigation to that grand jury, who will then determine whether or not any criminal charges are warranted. And so, again, as we've all known by now, I hope everybody knows this investigation was not in the hands of the city, but in the hands of the state by design, to take it out of our hands and allow an outside agency to perform that investigation. This is the same reason why the Office of the Attorney General has a special prosecutions unit to create some separation between our county prosecutor's office and these officer-involved shootings and the investigations and potential grand jury proceedings within the county. So I just wanted to give everybody an update that this process is moving forward. The state is on its timeline for that investigation and the next step in the process. We do not control that, but I did want to let people know when there was an update to be had about the next step in the process. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Secondly, I wanted to talk about Cumberland Pool a little bit. As probably everybody has heard thus far, up till now, we have had some difficulty stemming from repairs that were, say, done, I guess is a way to say it, on the pool last year. Those repairs, we can have a longer conversation about the state of those repairs and the contracting process for those repairs. But ultimately, what we discovered is that there were additional needs that the pool had. We attempted to move through a contracting process to start the work last year. Unfortunately, by the time we got through the contract authorization process, the weather had turned and we were not able to start that work last year. So we got through the approval process, contracted with the company, Novak and Sons, to perform the work at the earliest possible moment, before the season started. We've had sort of an unusually damp or wet May this year, and what that has presented us with is a challenge because the work cannot be done either sort of the day of a rain or the day after while things are still wet. And so those unfortunate timeframes and requirements for the particular work that needs to be done, which I think centers around, in terms of the massive leaking that we are experiencing, that we have put off in the interest of not interrupting the swim season as much as possible in previous years. The scum gutter in particular is of primary concern, and then additional work needs to be done as well. As many people have seen already, we're anticipating a 2-week delay in the opening to get that work done. And but I did want to at least express a little bit of good news. We have. I personally have reached out to Mayor Brennan in University Heights, who was very amenable to providing us in Cleveland Heights with some assistance. And we started working through a potential agreement with the city of University Heights to allow Cleveland Heights residents to temporarily use their outdoor pool. Unfortunately, in the process, and I had some personal communication with council members in University Heights who made it very clear, unfortunately, that the council was not going to allow that to happen. And I was told in no uncertain terms that they were not going to allow that to happen. And we are working through, I believe right now, a potential agreement with the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District to temporarily use the pool at the high school in the intervening time between now and when Cumberland opens. But as far as I've been told, we have not received sort of a final approval from the board on that. But there is a bit of a bright spot. I did receive word from Mayor Weiss in Shaker Heights that they would be happy to help us out. And so Cleveland, we're still ironing out the details, but we hope to provide a mechanism for Cleveland Heights residents who have purchased pool passes to temporarily use the pool in Shaker Heights. to swim, do laps, and so we hope to provide more detail on that as soon as possible. So the two mayors that I reached out to were very eager to help. It hit some road bumps in University Heights, but in Shaker Heights, it looks like we're full speed ahead on that sort of collaborative approach. I assured the mayors that should they fall into the same issue at some point, we would be happy to help them out as well. And so I just wanted to let people know to look out for any additional information, and hopefully we can get Cumberland Pool open back up as quickly as possible. I think with that, that concludes my remarks for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Departmental reports, is Director Gonzalez here? Oh, there he is. All right.
Good evening, City Council. I will keep my report brief because I'm sure that you guys have a full agenda tonight, as we all know. So Mayor Sarin gave a great report on Cumberland Pool. Just to add a couple things to that as well, too. Just wanted to address a couple main questions that I've been getting that I'm sure it's good to get out to the public. And one of the main questions is that how come we didn't start the work sooner, or how come the work wasn't done last fall? Well, last fall, I can't speak too much for because I wasn't here, but I know that in November when I got here, it was one of the issues that immediately came to my plate, and we addressed it, right away. We brought it in front of your guys's, agenda, and you guys were gracious enough to approve it on first reading right away. Unfortunately, right after that happened, snow fell. I think the very next day, snow fell. So that washed out our fall season of getting it repaired. But the one nice part is that we were lucky enough to secure Frank Novak and Sons, who are a super well-renowned pool repair company. They did the repairs on Lakewood Pool, Cleveland Clinic Pool, and a bunch of other surrounding communities here in Northeast Ohio. But the one thing that we went into this upcoming spring with knowing is that they have a lot of work on their plate. One of them being, they're actually doing the painting and repairs over at Kane Park as well too, in our admin and performers building. So we had what I thought was a decent plan in place. And here I am, I'm taking accountability for things that are happening right now in our city. So I apologize for it not opening on time, but we thought that we had a good plan in place. Unfortunately, Mother Nature, like the mayor said, just did not cooperate with us. We had that plan to end the work in the middle of May. That would give us 2 weeks of time to fill it, heat it, and then open up to the public because they were so backed up and all that good stuff. We wanted to start way sooner, but unfortunately, Frank Novak and Sons, they were just pretty backed up. So the rain hit, the rain continued to hit, and it just pushed us further back and further back. So for that, we apologize. Can't apologize for Mother Nature, but just apologize for the timeline of things. Another big question that we got regarding Cumberland Pool as well too is how come you guys let us know so late? And once again, as your Parks and Rec director, I will take accountability for that. I guess the main reason why we put the word out so late is because we were trying to be as hopeful as possible to the community that we would be able to deliver better news. And unfortunately, the weather just didn't allow us to do that. So moving forward, we'll be better in our communications with the public and be more conscious. Instead of thinking with our heart, we'll think more with our minds and business model and delivering that news to Cumberland Pool. But like the mayor said, there is some good news. We are going to be open on June 16th. They have been out. Actually, they were out yesterday working on a Sunday with 6 or 7 members of their crew. So they're working diligently, hitting up the good weather. And then they were out today, and then they will be finishing up their work tomorrow because we're supposed to have some beautiful weather. And So we will get that all taken care of tomorrow, which will give us about an 8 to 10 day. So there's going to be no work that's going to be done for about 8 to 10 days, but that's by design because we want it to set and cure properly. I've been aware that back in 2004 from some longstanding people that worked at the community center, that back in 2004, we did the same type of work and they filled the pool too early as opposed to what the contractor said. And next thing you know, our pool was being ruined and we kind of had to redo some of that work. So we're trying to avoid that at all costs. Potentially we could fill the pool on Wednesday or Thursday, but that's not the right thing to do, right? We want to do it the right way and the right way the first time to hopefully eliminate the leaking that we're having in that pool. So thank you, Mayor, for getting Shaker Heights on board with this. This is a great thing for our members. I do have a little bit more details regarding that, is that we are going to be able to use their pool starting on Thursday because their pool doesn't open till Thursday. So starting on Thursday, we'll be able to use their pool from 12 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Every day of the week except for Saturdays. So that's the arrangement that we worked out with them. And then we are still working out details with the school district. It's still in the school board's hands right now, but we're hoping to hear something back either tomorrow or very, very soon regarding that. So just wanted to get that word out there regarding Cumberland Pool. A couple other updates that was requested of me. First is the Dennison Park splash pad. I know that's been a hot topic for quite a few years here. Goes well before I started as well. But the nice part about it is that even in my previous job, I've had a great relationship with Game Time, specifically their representatives. So this was a fairly easy transition for me regarding that. So I was able to get on board quickly with the splash pad. I just met on site with them last week. And what we're looking at, because we have to get everything complete over at Dennison Park, there's a lot going on. If you guys have been over there, we have the whole turf with the demolition of the whole pool house, the turf project going on, and then also the pickleball courts. So there's a lot of construction going on over there. The people that live in that area, I apologize, but we're trying to get stuff done efficiently and as quickly as possible. But regarding the splash pad, all that work needs to be done before we can consider doing anything over there. We had to get that pool house down before we could determine where the lines were, utility lines, water lines, different things like that. So good thing is that we've located all those good things. And now that with that pool house down, we'll be able to position, what they're going to do is redo the renderings to position the pool house correctly. I'm sorry, not the pool house, but the splash pad correctly. So that way it'll fit the space a little bit better than what was planned before. So I think it's gonna end up being a better plan in the end. Good part about it is that they may have to shrink the footprint just a hair, meaning less concrete and stuff like that, but we'll be able to stick with the same budget that was allocated back in 2023. So you're thinking 2 years later, costs have gone up and all that good stuff, but I'm working it out with them so that way our costs really don't go up and our footprint really hasn't shrunk that much. It may just shrink just a hair, but and then what we're looking at is a potential late summer, early fall installation. What they'll do is they'll get it all installed. They'll get the lines pressure tested and everything looking like it's ready to go, so that all it is in the spring of next year, it'll be turnkey where we'll just flip a switch and it'll be ready to go for next season. Unfortunately, I know that's not the news that everybody wants to hear because they want it in the ground and use for 2025. But the reality of things is that there is just too many things going on over there for it to be installed and to be able to be used this year. Okay.
Mr. President, just I wanted to make sure to clarify one thing, and then also if the director would clarify another thing. When the splash pad was designed, when that project was initiated, there was a great deal of excitement. I was on council at the time. After the closing of Dennison Pool, there was an eagerness to provide a water feature that the kids could enjoy at Dennison Park. And I think in that eagerness, the design of that project did not take into account sort of the infrastructure underneath the splash pad that would be required for its actual installation when that project was first contemplated, and then when the city administration moved on that. And so over the course of the next while under this administration, we had to, of course, work with council. Council allocated ARPA dollars for work at Dennison that we have included this particular infrastructure project so that we can install finally the splash pad and provide that amenity to the residents of that neighborhood. And so I just wanted to say that sort of that infrastructure piece has delayed the installation, but our commitment to installing that has never wavered. Just working through the infrastructure investment was sort of the sticking point in this because it wasn't designed into the project in the first place. But the other thing that I was hoping that the director could clarify or dispel some of the concerns, conspiracy theories about shipping containers that people are afraid will just, cover every square inch of Dennison Park. And so I'm wondering if you can provide a little bit of clarity about how that rumor came to be and what the actual reality of the situation is.
Sure, and that's actually part of my report I have written down here as well too. So it segues right into what my next topic is. So I know that there had been a lot of concerns regarding shipping containers and whatnot. So once again, I've only been here since November, but from my understanding is that we have to house, well, not from my understanding, what I do know is that we have a lot of equipment over there that's going to need to be housed. We just ordered an electric gator and with a bunch of attachments to be able to maintain the turf and all that good stuff. We have some soccer equipment, some goals, a lot of those different things that we're going to have to find a house for as well too. Something that's going to have to be a little bit closer to the field that we have to do. So when this whole project was taking place, a good alternative to that was, I believe, was brought that a shipping container that can be revamped and look nice and all that good stuff would be a great alternative to just your normal shed or garage and all that good stuff. So that's where the whole shipping container idea came into play. The one thing that I did want to emphasize that I submitted in my email to you guys as well too when I did give an update is that nothing has been ordered, we're still investigating the topics of a shipping container, what it would look like, how it would fit the area, all that good stuff. So I think that there's been talks that it's going to be filled with shipping containers over there, but in the reality of things, still to this day, nothing has been ordered, and we're still in the talks or negotiations of what that's going to look like in that area as well.
And specifically, this is one container or shed or constructed building that will house primarily equipment for the turf field, and it will be located adjacent to the turf field, not sort of interrupting other locations in the park, but specific for serving that turf field with equipment as its primary use. Sort of adjacent to the bleachers, am I?
Yeah, it'll be very, very close to the bleachers, adjacent to them as well too. And now if you guys drive over there, we were able to salvage the old garage that sits over there because we did our analysis, it's in great structural shape. So that's gonna primarily, as we hope, it will be primarily used for our pool house, that we'll be able to store our equipment for the splash pad and different things like that. But it didn't make much sense to, I guess temporarily, because we don't have anything in place, it'll house the gator and different things like that. But it makes more sense to have something a little bit closer to the field, which, like this mayor said, adjacent to the bleachers to be able to have something over there. And then I don't want to take up too much more time, but the last thing that I just want to not address, but say to city council and the public as well too, is that being your new Parks and Rec director, I know there's a lot of questions on the person that sat in my seat before, or even before that, on why things were and weren't done, to an extent. But I just want to let you guys know is that, I'm here now. I'm dedicated to the community, to the city. So I'm looking forward to just moving everything forward and just trying to make Parks and Rec the best that it can possibly be. So I thank you guys for the opportunity. So
Thank you, Director. I really appreciate that.
questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Speaking of the shipping containers, when we were asked to provide money for the shipping containers via ARPA funds, one of the contingency was that there would be community input on that prior to ordering any shipping containers. I'd like to see that commitment, even though we're probably not going to be using ARPA for that, whatever it is that you want to put over there for your equipment, which I understand, I get it, needs to be protected. But if you would consider that when you're talking with your staff about possibly having community meeting of at least the neighborhood over there in terms of if you do decide to do a shipping container, really appreciate it. And I'd also appreciate it if you keep us continuously updated on the pool so that everybody knows what's going on with Cumberland and what's going on at the splash pad at Denison and other facilities. I liked what you sent us this week to council, and I think that everybody would appreciate hearing that information. So thank you.
All right. Councilman Maddox.
I just want to thank you again for the work that you're doing. I know you're standing on a whole lot of weight and a whole lot of pressure as you're coming in and trying to figure this out. And so I want you to know we see the level of engagement that you've tried, you and the staff. And just from the residents in that area I've spoken to, they've never seen that much activity in Denison Park in such a long time. So it's just great to see that as well. So although it's chaos, we know that when it's complete, it's going to look completely different now. And it's just great to be able to have that as an anchor on that corner of an area of the city. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's just clear that the investment is really happening.
All right, Vice President Russell.
Yes, I definitely want to thank you. That splash pad has been an initiative of mine since I came on council in 2019. We've been pushing it for Denison Park. I've been pushing it for Denison Park for a very long time. Also, I want to say thank you, and I guess to you and the mayor, for trying to come up with some type of agreement with the school system for the residents to be able to use the indoor pool. That's another initiative I've been pushing for a very long time, and I hope that agreement becomes permanent because our residents have been looking to swim in that indoor pool for a very long time. And so hopefully, since some dialogue is now going on, maybe Bill and I can put a rest the pool legislation, but we'll see. But hopefully this can be something permanent. I'm glad it's now coming after so long of a wait. So thank you so very much for your efforts. I appreciate it.
And just to go along with that, I just want to emphasize that the pool community is strong here, which I'm realizing very quickly. And I think aquatics in some capacity, whether we're talking Cumberland pool or some type of indoor pool, is going to have to be addressed and analyzed at some point. So I agree with you. And I think the mayor has put forward a nice plan with a feasibility study that we're taking a look at, and hopefully we will be able to present something to everybody here very soon.
I just hate it took so long.
Understood. Understood, but we're moving forward.
I appreciate it, everything you've done. I really do. Thank you.
Director Gonzalez, where would people change for the splash pad? Is there going to be a place for them to?
So as of now, it would just be the bathrooms located by the tennis courts, basketball courts right now. But I think down the road, that's going to be something, and there is some really nice solutions that we can move forward, maybe for capital items for down the road, but I think that that's something that we will have to address. I don't think, there are some people that said, well, we should have left the pool house up because that would have been a nice changing spot. That, in my opinion, wasn't a reality because that place was so big and it wasn't meant to be, and that it was meant to be a pool house with lockers and all that good stuff. So I think that there's other solutions that we can evaluate down the road that will better serve that area.
And along those lines, Mr. President, we may have to have that same conversation about the splash pad at Kane Park if we're going to be moving in a different direction on that sort of changing situation. But the one other thing that I thought that it was important to note is, well, actually, you know what? I'll hold off on it, but no, I won't. What we're talking about in terms of the feasibility study is a conversation that this community started a long time ago about, and we recently, I think I may have sent it to all of council. I'm not sure if it was just to you, Mr. President, or that you received an email from a resident and forwarded it.
Yes.
About, in part, about the creation of an indoor pool that the city would own and operate. And that resident suggested, or at least mentioned, other communities that have indoor pools connected to their community centers and how that would be a lovely thing potentially for the city of Cleveland Heights. And that is something that we have been discussing and working through some plans on. And that's what the director was mentioning, is sort of the conversations that we've been having about the potential construction of an indoor pool facility at the community center. To me, it's an exciting project. I think that the community would benefit for, decades to come if we chose to go that route as a community, having control of that facility and providing access to the residents of Cleveland Heights in that way, to kids in the summer and the winter break, and all of this stuff that we would have a little bit more control over would make a great deal of sense in terms of the recreation possibilities that we offer to residents. So, but we'll be, I think, presenting some of those preliminary plans pretty soon. And I look forward to hearing everybody's feedback on them.
All right. Last question for Vice President Russell.
Yes, I just want to put it on the record. The plan for the splash pad, I think I spoke to you about it. Next to it is supposed to be a toddler playground so that the parents could sit there with their toddlers and their small children next to the splash pad. So I just don't want that to go away. You probably didn't know anything about it, but that was part of the splash pad. But we've been pushing the splash pad, trying to get it through. Okay.
Definitely excited to have further conversations about it for sure.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. There you go. Can't stop that spontaneous applause. We're going to move on to our favorite public comment.
Nope.
We have
Tony.
way over 20 people, so we're
Mr.
going to have to
President.
limit it.
We got a report of the clerk of council real quick.
Oh, sorry. How could I skip the birthday girl on her birthday? Go ahead, Eddie.
Just to notify council that a notice to legislative authority has been received for a new D1, D3 liquor permit for 1223 Lounge Place LLC, doing business as 1223 Lounge Place, located at 2558 Noble Road. This matter has been referred to the mayor and chief of police.
All right, thank you. Now on to public comment. So keep it civil, and we're going to have to do 2 minutes. I'm really sorry, but there's just so many of you that want to talk. We want to hear you, but that's good. Eddie, we're going to start with agenda items first.
Lou Mandy.
Thank you, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name's Lou Mandy, and I live on Delaware Drive. I, along with a number of my neighbors, am here to speak about the third reading of ordinance number 0632025, and that's the development on Cedar Road between South Overlook and Delaware Drive. As you may know, this did not come to the attention of the residents of Cedar Hill neighborhood until just days before the May 5th council meeting. Since that time, a number of us have organized and been working very hard to prepare alternative proposals for the 2 parcels of green space located on Cedar Road. It is my understanding that the city council's received an initial proposal from our group and contains several ideas. I would like to make you aware that I've hand-delivered 7 Freedom of Information Act requests to the various boards, committees, departments that I thought might have contact with this matter. I wasn't sure exactly how to do it, so I just spread it around the city. Except for the PDF documents that Paul Volpe filed previously, sometime during the 9 months he's been working on this, I've received no other documentation. I've seen nothing that the city has communicated with Paul Volpe, not a letter or a memo. That seems unlikely, but I haven't received anything yet. As I mentioned at the last council meeting, 4 boreholes were Doug and surveyors have been on that property. And on what authority? As I understand it, Paul Volpe has no possessory or ownership rights to that land. I have not been able to discover anyone who has authorized the boreholes or surveyors. And once again, this ordinance is being identified as a matter that should go into effect on an emergent basis. I was told at the last meeting that this was a pro forma matter to list something as emergent. To quote the ordinance proposal of April 21st, it says, "It is necessary that this ordinance become immediately effective as an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace."
Mr. Mandy, I'm sorry you're out of time, but thank you. Appreciate it.
May I just say, this has been green space for 77 years. And to make this an emergent matter after all that time, it sounds unnecessary and unfair to the residents in the neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
So thank you.
Philip Wadsworth.
President, council members, I'm also here about ordinance 063/2025. If you close your eyes and think about how you enter Cleveland Heights, where is it? It's the top of Cedar Hill. There is a golden opportunity with that space because the Ascent didn't provide welcome to Cleveland Heights. There is a golden opportunity, and the proposal that we have submitted talks about different ways to use that green space. It could be a sculpture garden. It should be a welcome to Cleveland Heights. Could be an arboretum. Why an arboretum? The city already invests in trees for tree lawns. Why not take some of that investment and put new trees on there, label them, and make it more like a science garden? So we submitted a proposal. The council needs to not forget that we have only had 5 weeks since we heard this. So if the proposal I sent to all of you is not quite flushed out, we've only had 5 weeks. We know the developer's been working on this for 9 months and has had meetings with city council, with the city on this. And we've not been made aware of this. You know, the property was never put up for public sale. The council packet that you've all got, page 117, just on that, there was a city memo in there that talks about the community meeting. Doesn't give you any insight, if you didn't attend that meeting, any insight in what the conversation was about, how many people were present that were against this. So, you know, the proposal we submitted includes the Gateway Science Sculpture Garden. There is also the issue of safety. As the trucks come up there in the winter and snowplow, that goes right onto that sidewalk. It's the only piece of sidewalk along that corridor that does not have any tree lawn. And then the bank of it, the burn, does not allow that snow to be moved off anywhere else. So you have an opportunity. If you sell this property, that opportunity to develop that as a gateway, as green space, as park space, will go forever.
Thank you, Mr.
Let's become
Wadsworth.
another condo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Turk.
Hi, my name is Cindy, and I live on Delaware Drive. And my comments address the potential green space on Cedar being developed into condos, which I believe will negatively impact my neighborhood. I listened to the April 23rd City Council Planning and Development Committee meeting where the developer stated, paraphrase, that the city has to approve this. If we wait for the community or residents to approve, there will be no development. That is not true. We have the Ascent, we have the Park Synagogue development that's going in now, we have Meadowbrook and the Marquee. So we have plenty of development. And I calculated out, we had 80 people sign a petition for our neighborhood. If you take those 80 people and what they pay in taxes per year, that's about $500,000. You multiply that over 15 years, you are collecting $7.5 million from our streets. And you're not giving us a voice as to what happens to that space. People walk their dogs. I use that sidewalk to walk down to University Park. The developer made a comment that's not used. It's a vacant lot. It is not a vacant lot. My neighbor dog Springer, or Sky, who is a Springer Spaniel, loves to go down there and play. you know? And that's a secondary park for people with dogs. It's a place, it's a sidewalk, or it's a place because the sidewalk isn't safe. It's a place where we can kind of walk up on the hill to get down to University Circle. What, you know, the businesses will make money off this. The developer will make money off this. And for the $7.5 million you guys are gonna collect from us living on the streets over the next 2 years, we will get nothing. We will lose our green space, we will lose our safety to walk down to University Circle, and we will lose our space for our dogs. Thanks for listening.
Helen Liggett.
My name is Helen Liggett. I live on Delaware Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to repeat the background information on the public-owned space on Cedar Road between Delaware Drive and South Overlook. A potential developer presented his proposal on the 15th of May. His slide of the overview of the site showed what a graceful shape this sliver of land has. It also showed how narrow it is. At ground level, the site is the bottom of a U shape that describes the immediate neighborhood. The two streets, Delaware Drive and South Overlook, going up to North Park, make up the legs of the U. And one could add the parallel adjacent streets. From this point of view, the developers claim that the site is part of a commercial district and therefore should be developed as private high-end condominium units isn't logical. The site has been public space for at least 77 years. It functions as community green space for the immediate neighborhood. It is well loved, as evidenced by the number of signers to the petition. It is used daily. In this regard, it is passable all year, whereas the sidewalk is dangerous in the winter. As my description pointed out, the space identifies the edge of the immediate neighborhood. It provides a buffer from the traffic of Cedar Road and the large-scale development across the street. The land slopes upward from the street, and tall, dense greenery and privacy fences run along the back. For drivers coming up Cedar Hill, it signals the beginning of Cleveland Heights. Thus, the site is an active and integral part of neighborhood life. It is not empty, vacant land that any proposal to turn it into private property implies. The city's forward climate plan includes the strategy of, quote, identifying opportunities to expand green spaces in all neighborhoods, end quote. In this case, the community green space already exists. It enhances the neighborhood and city in social and physical ways. As public space, it belongs to us all and is part of the city life that we value and to which we all contribute. I urge the City Council not to approve the sale and to consider residents' proposals.
Thank you.
Drew Herzig.
Drew Herzig, Bradford Road, Cleveland Heights. Mr. Mayor, councilors, Addie, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Mayor Sarin, thank you for flying the pride flag at City Hall for June. Councilors, concerning Resolution 103, 2025, I wish to go on record that I also have no confidence. I have no confidence in this City Council's ability to do their job. The people of Cleveland Heights voted to create a separate equal branch of government under a strong mayor. And from the very beginning, some of you could not accept that. You complained, you obstructed, you lied, you conspired, you did everything you could to make the mayor's job impossible. And now this is where we are. Whether or not it was your original intention, you have stirred up all the latent racism in the community. Because like it or not, we are all products of a racist society. We all carry the racist virus, and under sufficient pressure, that virus can be activated and spread through a community as is happening here now. You have summoned up a lynch mob, and you refuse to acknowledge this. I don't have time to go into implicit bias and cognitive dissonance and the other mechanisms of denial, but you won't let yourselves see what you were doing. Some of us do see what you were doing, and we refuse to be silent. We refuse to be complicit. Whatever your original intention, you now know that racism is fueling this vendetta. Racism and misogyny, because that virus has also been reactivated. And yet you continue to fan the flames, throwing your attack dogs red meat like this resolution. And anyone running to be mayor should not be voting on this resolution, let alone bringing it to City Council. That is a horrible abuse of your position on the City Council. Yes, there are other factors involved here. There are moneyed interests operating behind the scenes that would like to see the mayor out of the way so that they continue their gentrification projects. But they are also using racism to forward their agenda, and they are using you. But that does not excuse you. You are morally culpable. We see you and we will not forget.
Tom Hudak.
Tom Hudak, Bradford Road. I'd like to address the objections some citizens have to the development of a vacant lot on Cedar Hill. Now, as a former marketer, I do admire their attempt to rebrand a narrow vacant lot on the commercial strip between Euclid Heights and Fairmont Boulevards as a green space. Perhaps they are thinking of the boss, who some of you may recall. Tony, I'm looking at you. The boss once sang about the midnight gang who's assembled and picked a rendezvous for the night. They'll meet beneath that giant Exxon sign that brings this fair city light. I'm quoting Bruce Springsteen because the only view this green space offers is that of a Sunoco gas station, and beyond that, a Firestone repair shop. And these citizens already have a green space maintained by the city on North Park Boulevard at the opposite end of the very same set of blocks. That real green space, by the way, is far larger than the narrow lot bordering the busy traffic on Cedar Road. And developing the lot on Cedar will convert it into a tax revenue generating property. Or do these citizens think their taxes are too low? Unfortunately, concern for the environment here in Cleveland Heights has repeatedly been repurposed to serve private agendas. Take the case of the newly elected councilwoman who ran into opposition to her expensive recycling scheme. So what did she do? She resigned. And now instead of public service, she's the chief correspondent for what I call the Cleveland Heights Mayor Haters Club. When the history of this period in Cleveland Heights is written, people will wonder how concern for the environment came to be used as a cudgel in an attempt to destroy our city's first elected mayor, an attempt that no matter what your opinion of him or this council, that has led to the Heights to be synonymous with dysfunction. It's well past the time for people to stop cloaking their hidden agendas under the guise of environmental altruism. Thank you.
Paul Volpe.
Council President, before you start the clock, start it before I even got up to the thing.
I didn't press anything, but
I don't know. Brett.
Eddie, give him his full 2 minutes, all right?
Started it when you started talking.
I was just going to say, considering I am the affected party to all of this, I'm the evil developer. If I may take a couple of more seconds, if you indulge me,
Sure.
I'm going to read a statement as
For
fast
2 seconds, no
Okay.
problem.
But this is about my integrity as much as anything else. As far as the developer's concerned, I don't care anymore. After 40 years of practicing architecture and the values of urban design and planning, I decided to get involved after I moved here 9 years ago. I built a home, I moved to the city, my kids live here. I've tried to offer insight and ideas as I believe Cleveland Heights is sadly in decline. A lot of people agree with that, but could have great days ahead. Our identity and future lie with investment in our beautiful neighborhoods, new housing, and revitalization of our wonderful commercial districts. So I propose diverse for sale infill developments on vacant properties, 4 of which failed because of a greedy church, an arrogant city manager, a stubborn library director, and a thoughtless utility company. Finally, one took hold, a half-acre, 330-foot, narrow strip of city property that nobody ever cared about until I came along and talked about. And some called it a park and others see it, as the gentleman just said, as a vacant and underutilized parcel. The proposal is simply to extend the neighborhood, complete the business district, fill an ugly void with quality architecture and 3 unique, beautiful tax-paying single-family homes. After 9 months of discussion, planning, designing, negotiating with the city, we're here today in front of City Council with a purchase agreement. That's all it is. It has to go in front of many other boards before this gets approved. And you all can come to those boards and speak your mind. But on Friday of last week, the city's hired attorney offered us last-minute changes to the purchase agreement, telling us to take them or leave them. Okay. Well, after all this, 9 months of an invisible mayor, a law and city planning directors who I previously trusted, Bill, I trusted you, but they all vanished for some reason. And there was no assurance we'd get the support needed to at least discuss this, so it might move forward. Well, my partner and I regrettably say, Uncle, we're done. I'm done. I'm done with the city. I'm finished, okay? So people, you want your park, you got it. I'm not gonna stand in your way. You got it, it's there, okay? But consider that there is another side to this, because that piece of land is city property. It's not your property. It's all of our property. And our neighborhoods are shared, and their future is something that will affect all of us. Thank you, Council, for listening in the past. Thanks, Brian Anderson, for being the only one that provided us any professional service under difficult circumstances. And to Khalil Sarin, look, some senior wisdom. I have a son your age, and I told him a successful leader must love to engage with people, know how to listen, and lead with vision. You've done none of these. It's time to go. And for me too. Goodbye.
Ken Surratt.
Mr. Volpe, I just want to understand this. Are you withdrawing this?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. All right, I didn't.
Give them their land. No leadership in this town.
All right, Ken Surratt from South Overlook, here to speak about 06325 2025 as well. And it's more about the inconsistent process with development in this community. Public input is an important piece. I sit on the Cleveland Heights Planning Commission now, and I've seen a couple different examples of this, right? We have the severance plan where the developer from New York is coming here, gathering public input for the very beginning to actually include that in the development of the whole plan. Another example would be Nobility Court, which is one that, again, neighbors did not really know about. There was very little public input, and it wasn't until it got to the Planning Commission that, which was really interesting, it was Mr. Volpe, who was the architect, who got involved and actually got community input. So if this is important from the very beginning, I would really urge this, the mayor, the administration, the council, that any development plan to really start there, to really develop the plan and have the input so that it doesn't get slowed down. The Nobility Court process, it ended up being really great, but that is because we slowed it down and actually got that community input necessary to come up with a good product. So just urge you all to really, well, I guess it's not on the table now, but for future development deals, please have a more, have a process that is consistent, that has community input at the very beginning, and you'll end up with a better product. Thank you.
Kirsten Ryan.
I just want to say very wise words. Thank you.
Hi, Kirsten Ryan, Washington Boulevard. Mayor Sarin, as a resident and a homeowner in Cleveland Heights, and as someone who voted for both you and a strong mayor, I'm here today to emphatically ask you to step down. You have become the story, and therefore it is impossible to effectively govern when the story of the day, every day, is some fresh scandal originating from your office. We deserve and voted for a system of effective governance, not our current reality where your scandals play out like bad community theater. Your tenure has been marred by ongoing controversies, including the most recent and extraordinarily disturbing allegations against your wife, who no one voted for. but whose conduct has negatively reflected on and deeply impacted the people that you claim to serve. Your issues have also led to the resignation of key city officials and have crippled critical city function. In effect, your controversies have blocked you from doing your literal job, overseeing and managing an effective government and functioning government in Cleveland Heights. If you have to film yourself performatively working, you have lost the plot and you need to resign. The entire focus, yours and the council's, right now is on internal dispute, which has stopped progress on pressing matters like critical infrastructure we use every day. For the well-being of our community, it is imperative that you exit the clown car and step down, because this tent and this town is done with your circus.
Robin Coslin. Yes, Robin.
Hello, Robin Coslin. I'm living on Wood Road. I don't live on Delamere, but I do want you, I would like you to know that I consider abatement a tariff on the rest of us. And that when you abate properties, the rest of us have to pick up the slack. And I understand why you do it in certain circumstances, but on that neighborhood you're talking about abating, you got to be kidding. And I'm done.
That's all for legislative agenda items.
All right, go on with the rest.
CJ Nash.
CJ Nash, Vandemar Road, and I think you guys know me well enough to know I'm absolutely furious. I'm doing a really good job of trying to hold it in, not cuss real bad. Thank you for the director for being honest about the shipping containers. You, Mayor Sarin, and you, Anthony Maddox, I faced you guys at a meeting not too long ago, and I asked you, are you putting shipping containers in Denison Park? You didn't say no, you didn't say yes, but you did. What you said was that these council members had gone back and changed their minds. That is a lie. They did not, because they did not know about the shipping containers. You wrote that article in the Focus. You didn't call them shipping containers. You called them storage containers. One little bitty teeny weeny sentence in a great big story at the very end. Why? Because you knew we'd be mad. They said no on the shipping containers, and you guys used deception to go behind all of our backs and do it anyways. And go ahead and film me, that's fine. If you are gonna force these shipping containers down our throat, they better be the most beautiful, gorgeous shipping containers I've ever seen in my life. And they better be maintained constantly, because I'll tell you what, you lied. This is deceptive. This is not honest. You went behind our backs because you knew we wouldn't like it, because you knew we wouldn't. Because people who are honest and are not being deceptive, you would have told me when I got up here and this council said, tell me if I'm wrong. Did I misinterpret that? You would have told me yes or no, okay? Quit the deception. What else is going on behind our backs that we don't know about?
Mr. President, if you would please just allow me just 30 seconds.
30 seconds, sure, man.
Thank you. So I just wanted to clarify for everybody watching that when the shipping container conversation was happening during the ARPA conversation, it was actually me that requested that the shipping container piece of that be removed from consideration so that we could do something else with those dollars. And in the conversation about the turf field at Denison, this was discussed that we would need some storage capacity, and we discussed the potential for one container, whether it's a shipping container or a storage shed or something, to service the turf field. This was done in full public view, in consultation with council. We're not talking about adding shipping containers to parks. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. I appreciate
this was
that.
discussed
Go ahead,
in full public
Eddie.
view.
Mr. President,
Well, we're gonna move on.
Mr. President, I just want to make it clear that this conversation was completely on record. I can't have this community thinking that I lied to them when at the last meeting
I understand.
stood here flat-footed and said yes to those shipping containers. So let's just make sure that we're making statements that are honest.
And if you want to point to the meeting,
I cannot allow the community to think that I sat here and lied to them when I just stood here on camera at the last meeting and stated that and stated at every meeting prior. There was never a time where I lied to this community about those shipping containers. That is wrong, and it's continue to fuel the fire and the flames of the politics that's happening in this community. That is not fair and it's not right. That never happened, and we've got to stop accusing people.
all right, well, hold on. No, we're not going to do the back
It's
and
not
forth.
right. Thank
All
you.
right, go ahead, Annie.
Lou Radovojevich.
I'm non-agenda, so I'm pretty boring. But I see a common thread actually tonight. And the common thread is really of not communicating with the public when you're developing. And we're always told in the ninth inning. I'm here because it was watching the YouTube, the public hearing on zoning text amendments. The name alone sounds very boring. I mean, zoning text amendments, that's probably one you're going to skip. But what's happening, the legislations that's behind that, everybody here has got to watch it. Tell your friends to watch it. If there's one thing I can make clear while I'm up here, please watch the public hearing zoning text amendments that took place on 5/27/25. Because underneath it is discussing about taking a residential home and converting it into a religious place. And just think about that. So what I want you to do is actually watch this YouTube video on your front porch. I want you to sit outside and just visualize cars coming onto your street. Visualize doors slamming and opening up and car alarms hitting. Visualize people going into your driveway to turn around. That's what we're talking about. This is significant. This is significant legislation that because of all this noise that's been taking place over the last 6 months, we're missing some key legislation here. We're not giving its due time. And when I saw the process for zoning text amendments, the first one was on April 7th, second April 7th, third on May 14th. Then they had the meeting on May 27th for the public hearing. And the last step is action by council, potentially June 16th, 2025. I mean, that is on warp speed. That is on warp speed, and we cannot digest that. And you know that I'm always paying attention to council events, and I missed it. And I think I do a good job of paying attention to everything that happens on the city. So please, slow down and really think this one through and watch the YouTube video.
Eileen Rammerman.
Good evening. Eileen Rammerman from Rutherford Road. After all the recent news stories about dysfunction at City Hall, many people have asked, why is this happening now? But it seems dysfunction was evident long ago. For example, on numerous occasions not long after taking office, the mayor held up council's approval of capital projects and contracts by leaving hundreds of emails unanswered. Council's job is to gather information so they can vote, and the mayor's unwillingness to answer emails kept them from doing their jobs. An internal study found that of the hundreds of unanswered emails, 91 were inquiries on pending legislation. Behavior like this does nothing to move the city's best interests forward. More recently, a collective gasp was heard throughout our city during last Friday's Council of the Whole meeting, when the mayor invoked a James Baldwin quote in response to the council president's text inquiring as to his well-being. After recovering from my shock, I did some research to try and understand the context of the statement. In short, what I found, and I quote, is, above all else, insert the phrase the mayor used, is a searing indictment of America's failure to rectify its shameful history of racial inequality. As a resident of a city where most of us are blind to color, creed, and gender, I find last Friday's statement to be an outrageous deflection, most definitely not in the spirit of the author's narrative. We needed healing. What we got was demonstration of tremendously poor judgment. Once again, behavior like this does nothing to move the city's best interests forward. This is not leadership. We talked at length for 20 minutes or so a couple of weeks ago, and the conversation was refreshing, and your insights were thoughtful. And when I asked about how citizens can benefit their community, you told me we should get involved and have open, candid conversations. The conversations and involvement we're having right now are not the ones any of us want to have, but we've been left with no choice.
Alana Baldwin.
Alana Baldwin, Kennedy Road. I was initially hoping to address this to the new Parks and Rec director. I don't know if he's out there. First, welcome. We're so glad to have you if you're still here. I'm not here to complain about Cumberland's delayed opening. I swear I do have a request and it involves some backstory, so bear with me. In late 2020, as the world and our piece of it were trying to return to normalcy after COVID, ice rinks all over the rink were reopening and we were told that one of ours would not due to budget cuts. 2 years later in 2022, as the skating and hockey season are about to start, our other rink was broken. They told it was going to be shut down for repairs and it was going to stay shut down longer so that they could paint the rink walls. The inconsistency and delays that happened drove hockey players, their families, and their money to other programs. In the last several years, the high school pool and the splash pads have been taking up time, money, space, nothing happening. Maybe they're going to happen now. It's been years. Nothing's happened. It's been a story. Last summer, Cleveland Heights residents were informed that Cumberland needed massive repairs. We were told it might close. Public outcry. The city conveyed the message that Cumberland would be repaired and upgraded starting in the last fall. I don't know what happened. I don't know the weather. We're looking at possibly lipstick on a pig. I love this pig. I want it to open. It's the Wilbur to my Charlotte's reference, but we're not getting big repairs that we were told were going to happen. Due to budget cuts, mismanagement, infighting, and neglect, our programs and our facilities are suffering. We're hemorrhaging families and money out of our city. We've got to do better. And that starts with funny, big general topic, listening to the community in all respects, not just the politicians. It involves supporting the programs and making repairs before they delay the use of our facilities. When key community resources aren't able to function, community morale clearly suffers, with far-reaching consequences that last long after the pool, the rink, or the park reopen. Thank you.
Cindy and Larry Mittman.
Good evening. I'm Larry Mittman, living on Berkeley Road, and I have a big statement to the mayor. You stated that our choice of getting rid of potholes was not our doing, that it has to be, I think you said that the state's doing, or maybe backwards. I'm not sure. But I have to say that you had it 100% wrong. You did not understand what is happening. When we drive up Berkeley and get to Maple, we have to drive totally to the other side of the road, including possibly onto the tree lawn, just to get around the deep potholes that are taking our tires away. This is bad. This is not what we pay for to have done for the city. I say, if you can't figure out what to do, then contact Beechwood, South Euclid, Shaker, and I think that there are other cities that have the same problems, but they have taken care of it and they've done beautiful jobs of it. Why can't we find out what they're doing and do the same thing that they're doing? Obviously, you're not doing that. Otherwise, you would have had that finished by now. We are not here to take our Conestoga wagons over this bumpy road. I can't get my car to go over those potholes without damaging my axle. Do what you're supposed to do, Mayor. You're the person that's supposed to find out what to do, and you're not doing it. Thank you.
Amy Eugene. Amy Eugene?
Amy Eugene, Scarborough Road. Khalil, the reason number one that you're unfit to lead this city, you attempted to pass a deficit-based budget with plans to spend almost $1 million from city savings without providing a complete budget package. Failure at Finance 101. When 6 members of council voted against you, you labeled them Council 6, demonstrating your childishness and lack of leadership. Reason number 2, you further pitted groups against each other when you publicly called for city employees and residents to stand up against Council 6. You created a sky is falling fallacy demonstrating your lack of fiscal acumen. You stonewalled residents and used city staff as pawns. Reason 3, we're still waiting for complete financial data from Kane Park. Reason 4, in December, long before we knew the name Dan Horrigan, I received an anonymous Facebook message from a former employee who shared, quote, "The mayor's wife, Natalie, is what we dubbed as the head of HR. She directs the mayor, who the mayor hires and fires," end quote. I have since come to know this person as well as other current and former employees who are all afraid to speak out about Natalie's volatility within City Hall. Reason 5, you put a staff member on leave and allowed Natalie to continue her reign at City Hall. You sat on the complaint for months, just as you did with the complaint against Ian Hins. Reason 6, Natalie's use of horrendous anti-Semitic language and comments that you chose to rationalize rather than condemn. Reason 7, you allowed Natalie to berate our police officers and did nothing to interrupt it. You didn't have the courage or leadership capacity to interrupt Natalie. You demonstrated an inability to lead and care for our city employees. Reason 8, you're unfit to lead this city. You approached the county to investigate filing felony charges against one of those officers for doing his job. You are tearing this city apart, yet we the people will not let that happen. Khalil, resign or be recalled.
Josie Moore? Josie Moore?
Hi, I'm Josie Moore.
We remember you.
I live on Stillman. I think everyone here knows that I am a former council member, very briefly. When I ran for office, I was fueled by perhaps a starry-eyed belief in the power of community and the good of people. When I resigned from council, I told a friend that I no longer believe in people. I no longer believe in the good in people. So, and I've done a lot of healing since then, but I have to say that this past weekend was spiritually restorative. We put out the call to the people of Cleveland Heights that we are seeking to recall the mayor, and the people of Cleveland Heights responded in droves. Even the weather could not keep them away. In just 3 days, we have collected over 1,200 signatures, and we still have more people saying, "How can I sign?" and more people saying, "How can I help?" And it was so heartening, but one of the things that really just moved me was that the people coming in there, they weren't coming in there out of hate. They weren't coming in there out of vitriol. They were coming in there because they felt hopeless, they felt powerless, they felt frustrated and sad and indignant, and they just wanted something to do to make their city better again. They weren't coming out there, you know, out of rage. They were coming out there to sign out of love. Love for this city, love for its people, love for its communities, and love for our shared future. And it was so moving. And so many of the other signature circulators said, this has just changed me so much. I was in such a bad place, but hearing all these people talk about how much they love this city and how much they want it to be better, it was just inspiring. And so I encourage people to sign the petition. Thank you.
James Bates.
I'm here to read the statement that many of you probably suspected we would have had from the mayor weeks ago. To the residents of Cleveland Heights, members of city council and city staff, serving as the first elected mayor of our city has been the greatest honor of my life. I came into this role sincerely committed to progress, equity, and service, but I must now acknowledge a painful truth. Through my ego, poor judgment, and missteps, I have lost the trust of the community I was elected to serve. I take full responsibility for the harm that has resulted from my actions, my words, and the consequences that have had on our city's unity and sense of shared purpose. Recent events, including my wife's comments and my response in a public setting, have caused understandable hurt, anger, and disappointment. Rather than de-escalating tensions, I allowed my defensiveness to cloud my judgment. And I failed to uphold the standard of leadership our residents deserve. For that, I am truly sorry. To the people of Cleveland Heights, I know I have let you down. I recognize that many have placed their hope and trust in me as the first person elected to this office, and I deeply regret not living up to that responsibility. I wanted to lead with integrity, vision, and accountability, but in the moments when it mattered most, I fell short. Though this chapter ends with disappointment, I remain proud of what we accomplished together, advancing inclusive policy, securing funding for community safety, and laying the groundwork for a more responsive city government. Hopefully, future leaders will build on that work with wisdom and compassion. Thank you to all who believed in me. I am sorry I failed to meet the moment. I wish nothing but peace, progress, and healing for the city I love. With deep regret and humility, I am submitting my resignation as mayor of the city of Cleveland Heights, effective immediately. With sincere apologies, Khalil Sarin. And Mr. Mayor, I've done your homework for you. Sign it.
Okay, all right, guys, we have to maintain decorum, please. Eddie?
Deborah Van Cleef.
Ooh, hard act to follow. Well, I am going to, before I start and before you start the timer, can we take 1 minute and sing happy birthday to Addie? We need a little lift here. Okay.
You give us a pitch?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Addie. Happy birthday to you. Okay.
Now, raise your hand
Thank
if you
you,
were doing
Deborah.
harmony. Who was doing the harmony part? Beautiful.
Also, thank you, Deborah. I was one of your former students.
Yes,
so
Addie was a camper of mine, and she was a hellion. She was quite a kid. Okay, so anyone in Northeast Ohio who has not been hiding under a rock knows our city is in crisis. This crisis did not start last month with allegations of anti-Semitic and misogynist remarks by Natalie McDaniel. It didn't start in March when City Administrator Dan Horrigan quit because the mayor can't or won't keep his personal life separate from his public role. It didn't start last November with the budget fiasco, when the mayor presented council with an inadequate and incomplete budget and resisted with obfuscations, insults, and fear-mongering as six of the 7 members came together to act responsibly. Perhaps no one can pinpoint when ongoing dysfunction blossomed into a full-blown crisis, but it has been a long time coming. But over 3.5 years, it's become clear that under this mayor, the government is not meeting residents' needs, whether for timely yard waste removal, access to recreational facilities, or well-maintained, rodent-free, reliably heated places to live. And those are just a few examples. Faced with criticism, the mayor claims victimhood, pulls stunts, and deflects attention away from the subject at hand. Many residents are disappointed, frustrated, appalled, and offended. They're coming together across lines of race, religion, ethnicity, gender, and economic status, and even across a broad political spectrum to say we all deserve better. I have some urgent requests. Mayor Sarin, please do not run for reelection. Your candidacy will simply be a distraction, and I'm willing to bet you can't win. To my fellow residents, if you're not registered to vote at your current address, take care of that immediately. We will soon know who the candidates are for mayor. Read their platforms, ask questions, and choose one to support. Put out a yard sign, make a small donation, talk to your friends, or go all in. Everything helps. Then vote in the primary September 9th and the general November 4th. Together, we can strengthen local democracy and move our city forward.
Angel Fasolo.
Angel Fasolo, Edge Hill. So Khalil, I know you told me you'd prefer that I don't speak to you, but I get my 2 minutes and I'm going to direct them toward you. Did you hear Director Gonzalez tonight? A man who stood up here, inherited a heck of a lot of problems because he only got here in November, and he took accountability with grace and apologized to the residents and everyone in here. You'd learn a lot from the person you hired. That was actually seemingly a good hire. But you left a lot of crap for him and a lot of other people, and that's why the pool's not going to open. I could have told you, I moved here when I was 11. I could have told you University Heights wasn't going to let us swim. I don't care what Mayor Brennan said. Never going to happen. As for Shaker Heights letting us swim for a short period of time, some restrictions apply, all restrictions apply. You've got all these people in here talking about people wanting you out because of race. Where's the Racial Justice Task Force report? I know I'm jumping around because I've got 2 minutes, so I scrambled. Where's that? And if you're thinking about race, what's the percentage of people who have swim passes who are going to be able to use Shaker until June 16th, if that even pans out, versus some of the kids who just randomly come during open swim? Thinking about the demographics, who is that serving or who is that hurting? Question, are you sticking around and not resigning only because of your ego, or because if you stay here, our taxes pay your legal fees? Because they're mounting. Resign, if not, the recall will happen.
Karen Lash.
Karen Lash, Monticello Boulevard. I wasn't sure I was going to speak today, but I threw my paper in just in case. And while I was sitting here listening, a few things came to light. First of all, you did not ask that the containers be removed. It was the people who cried out, "No containers," that put the heat on city council, and it was removed. And for you to say otherwise, oh, you're filming me too? That's 2 people that he's filming. That's your council person. The second thing is, what your wife did and said is absolutely appalling and disgusting. And for you to not apologize, for her not to apologize, for you to defend her, and then do a 15-minute diatribe that somebody beautifully called word salad, which said nothing about the real issue. And then the day that you finally came back to City Hall and had the tape going so people could see you in the conference room? Really? Are you kidding me? That's one issue. Second issue is, unless I'm incorrect, City Council appropriated money like 1.5 years ago for the pools for lifeguards so people could use the Heights pool. Why didn't you act on it? It's 1.5 years that people have been waiting to use that pool. And the last thing was, there were 3 things I wanted to talk about. Well, my time's going to be up, so my brain doesn't work very long, apparently. But you get my drift. You need to resign. The fact that you are even trying to run for reelection is unbelievable.
All right. Again, as always, thank you, everybody, and for being patient. I know you had to wait an extra half hour, and I do apologize for that. We're going to go through our legislation, first readings for consideration of adoption. Addie, you can.
I have resolution number 101-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Kruger International, Inc., doing business as Space Saver Corporation through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the provision of new lockers to be installed in the police department's locker rooms, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Okay, go ahead.
I am so glad to see this legislation come forward. I know when I first came on council in 2019, I did a tour of the police locker rooms and the facilities of where they were working, and it was awful. And I am so glad that this is now coming to pass, that they are going to have a nice facility to work in. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a brief comment. I'd also like to express that I'm very happy that this is finally, becoming a reality. We have spent a great deal of time trying to improve some of the facilities here. We started with the police gym, in coordination with the police union, sort of designing that, and then the city funding it. And I did want to just go back in time a little bit and offer some of the reasons for why this is coming before council now as opposed to previously. We attempted to do this with ARPA dollars a while back. As things get complicated sometimes when you are attempting to use federal dollars for certain things, and this was no exception. And so I did want to appreciate, when I first put this before council, and council was certainly amenable to seeing this move forward. And then I just wanted to thank council for being flexible about the funding sources so that we could eliminate some of the red tape that allow us to, for instance, enter into this agreement with this Sourcewell contract without having to, sort of conform to the restrictions of the ARPA contracting process. So I just wanted to say thank you for your flexibility. I'm glad that this is finally moving forward. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and let's get it done.
All right. If there's no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 102-2025 on first reading. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute 6 real estate purchase agreements for the sale of certain residential real property located within the city to certain purchasers, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, Councilwoman Larson.
I'd just like to say I'm very happy to see this legislation come to pass. This gives properties doesn't give, they have to purchase it, but Future Heights and Start Right are well-respected CDCs in our city, and they have the opportunity to continue to rehab these buildings, these houses that should not be blighting our neighborhoods. So we're looking forward to seeing those improvements in those neighborhoods. Thank you.
And I would like to second your remarks with certainly. Councilman Posh, did you want to? Oh, okay. All right.
President, I want to talk about this one too, because this
Really
is very
quick, okay?
exciting. So this is something that we decided to do. It's the first stage. It's the first stage in an ongoing process of marketing and returning to their highest and best use a lot of the vacant properties and vacant lots that we have in the city. And I want people to be on the lookout for additional projects that are related to this RFEI and RFEI2. We've had a lot of discussion with council in executive session, for development purposes about these things. And I'm looking forward to taking some of those vacant lots and turning them back into families, homes for families. So please be on the lookout for that. We're looking forward to a flurry of development in Cleveland Heights.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 103-2025 on first reading, a resolution expressing a loss of confidence in the mayor of Cleveland Heights and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Petrus.
I have a motion.
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Councilwoman Larson.
Thank you. This resolution challenges the leaders of Cleveland Heights to personify the values we all should live by every day. Our residents look to us to be models of what it means to be a leader. Due to the recent reported and alleged instances where our mayor has used poor judgment and not accepted accountability for exposing city employees and residents to hate speech and unacceptable behavior, I am supporting this resolution.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Posh?
Waiting to see if the timer's going to start or not.
No, this is.
I'm very disappointed we're in this place now. Public talk about the mayor's need to resign, a recall campaign, and now a vote of no confidence is not the place where I want our city to be. All I wanted was a successful mayor, because a successful mayor means a successful city. Our city is in a state of decline operationally and by reputation. Khalil Sarin is now in the news daily with stories of deceit and dysfunction, all this brought upon himself. He doesn't take responsibility for this, and I've come to believe he thinks he's done nothing wrong. Operationally, the city lacks the capacity to get things done. One city employee recently told me, getting things done takes forever. I say this with reservation because we have many good people working for us, but our staff is afraid to do their jobs. When staff is afraid to do their jobs, it creates a toxic work environment that leads to reduced productivity, low morale, and high turnover. This fear is real because of poor leadership, unclear expectations, job insecurity, and a lack of communication. We need leadership that creates a culture of trust, open communication, and support where employees feel comfortable speaking up and taking risks. I love Cleveland Heights. This is my home. I believe this era of deceit and dysfunction is only temporary and easily solved. We need to get back to embracing best practices. We need real collaboration between the executive and the legislative branches of government. Thankfully, residents are stepping up. We have excellent choices for the upcoming elections. I'm voting yes for this no confidence resolution. It can't wait. I believe Khalil Sarin is dangerous because he has a track record of putting self-interest over the city. He's earned my no confidence vote. Call it misinformation or just his intent to mislead us all, but I've lost his trust.
Councilman Maddox?
Thank you, Mr. President. I've spoken to residents and a couple of news stations this afternoon, and just want to reiterate what I've already stated here tonight. We're in a place where this year, the political environment has just been unreal. 5 out of 7 of council members are running for election. 2 are running for mayor, including the one who wrote this resolution tonight. The mayor is also collecting petitions to be on the ballot. I'm just not in the middle, or in the mood rather, to go back and forth with residents and go in circles anymore at this point. I think it's important that residents vote how they feel and we move out of the way. I don't feel like putting my finger on a scale one way or the other in terms of going back and forth at this point. There are experiences that I've had on this council in terms of my faith in our own leadership, and in terms of some of the experiences that I've had, some of the laws that I feel like we've broken in terms of illegal meetings. I've even openly expressed, and it made the news, my no confidence in our council president in this past January he was sworn in. So I believe in people's right to feel how they feel about leadership. But at this point, with 6 months left in the term, I'm at this point where people just need to vote. We need to listen, we need to engage, but sign whatever petitions you're going to sign, vote however you're going to vote. I think it's important that we stay out of the way, especially again with so many of us running for office. Again, 5 out of the 7 of us at this dais, plus the mayor. It's just a lot to work through, and it's a lot I don't want to cloud any more conversations with this. I've talked to folks in our neighborhood chat. I've talked to folks in my church. I was in Virginia this past weekend, and for 12 hours on the road, just talking to my wife about this. And it's come to the point where people really don't know what to believe or how to feel. And in addition, you add in the racial implications. I can tell you that I've experienced some of it over even this past week, some of the language and some of the tone. And although it hasn't come from all of our residents, some have used these issues with council and with the mayor to say some things that they've always wanted to say about African Americans and how many of us feel. I expressed this a couple of hours ago, but there's only ever been 4 Black men elected in 100 years in the city of Cleveland Heights, and 3 of us are currently in office right now. The one that isn't, shout out to Reverend Jimmy Hicks, really paved the way. And so we've got these very unique experiences, and it is played out in politics even before we ran for office. I heard a resident say that most of our city doesn't see race. I really hope that that's not true, because if you can't see race, you can't see discrimination, and you can't see those gaps in terms of your understanding and how other people can be treated. And so I'm really asking the residents, this is a political year. There's a lot of vote happening. You're going to hear some statements from council. You're going to hear some statements from the mayor. But let's try to keep those statements and to focus on the facts and not feelings. Focus on the facts and not emotions. And stop and see how some of the things that you might have expressed, although they may be how you feel, maybe it's the way you're wording those that has given some of us pause in our community. I've heard that this is a diverse bunch of people who are even going after the mayor in terms of signing the petitions. I can tell you as an African American and those I've talked to in the community, that is not the case. Many folks are concerned about this and have called it several different terms, and I won't even stretch it out. But I'm just stating that even those who oppose the mayor and disagree, you may want to pick some better language when you're out in the community and articulating this to people in the community, because it's not coming across like you think it is. I'm to the point where I have to share when we leave here tomorrow the picture of my 3 sons, because they're going out to knock on doors and get petitions from me. There's a reason we're sharing that picture. My family's scared to death. My sons haven't gone out to walk this neighborhood to do anything in years. It's because of the tone and the climate here. And I want to make sure that we remove our emotions and remove how we feel about one another from the facts, so that people can still feel safe and welcome this community, regardless of how we feel about the current climate that's happening. It is affecting folks. It is affecting my family. It's affecting the families of many people up here, the mayor's family, and many of your families as well. Many of your residents, African Americans, are sensing this. It's just not something that we're putting online, but it's bubbling up. I have a listening session next week with faith leaders to have a conversation about this and what this looks like and how we're shaping these conversations. What I don't want is Cleveland Heights to turn into a place where we're now divided by race and feelings based on representation. So we've got to find a way to move forward. And I'm hoping that if council removes itself out of this and we run our race and have a conversation with you and let you make those decisions on your own, it'll be a little bit easier. The last thing I want to say about this is, with all this happening, just remember that at the end of the day, we are all still neighbors. When all this is done, no matter who's going to be in office next year, we've got to look at each other at the grocery store and across the street and at schools, and let's think about how we want to have those conversations moving forward and what we want this community to look like. So again, I'm voting no on this tonight. I believe this is really political driven. There are some things and some extreme frustrations that people have in this community, but I think this council isn't at a point where it can weigh and lead on this, especially in my feelings, with so much that we have done wrong in terms of how we've approached our leadership, approached our collaboration with the administration, and even how we've held public meetings. So thank you.
All right. Councilman Petrus? Oh, whoever wants to go first.
Thank you, Mr. President. None of us wanted to be in this situation, but the reality is that we are. And so this is an important step forward, but there's so much more that we need to do. So I'm really proud that our council, led by Councilwoman Russell, drafted legislation and passed it that will require that contracts between $7,500 and $50,000 be publicly posted after we felt that contracts were being slipped by without our knowledge. We are currently also working on legislation regarding key card access, which Council Vice President Russell is also leading. That is an important step. And it's also important that we strengthen whistleblower protections. On Friday, a lawsuit was filed against this city over an alleged hostile work environment. And it was just by happenstance over the weekend that I learned that another lawsuit was filed against the city on March 10th over alleged retaliation. So this is an important step, which I will be voting for, but it's not the only thing. And so I look forward to moving beyond this and working on the things that will have an even more impactful, meaningful difference to protect our city's employees and continue to deliver high quality services for the city residents. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. Councilman Cobb.
The vote on this resolution is not political. It is also not about race, because true leadership, regardless of race, requires transparency, accountability, and a commitment to the public good over your own self-interest. We are witnessing the unraveling of our city because of failed leadership at the very top. The editorial board of the Plain Dealer, who previously endorsed Sarin for mayor, has called for his resignation. We have become the laughingstock of Northeast Ohio. The promise of progress under the new form of government remains unfulfilled. In fact, we have regressed. And things will only get worse as further unfavorable things and revelations are made about this administration. Most importantly, the respect and trust of the overwhelming majority of residents, regardless of their color, along with our employees, has been lost, with absolutely no possibility of it ever being regained by the mayor. Consequently, I am voting in support of the resolution of no confidence.
Vice President Russell.
I really wasn't going to say much tonight because I believe my colleagues have said enough and it's getting late. But something came up that I really have to speak to, which is racism. I am a Black woman on this council. I have never felt any racism at all on this council. I have been the worst treated person on this council, which all of my council members can tell you, but I don't say it to you. I demonstrate a lot of different things in legislation of how I've been treated, but the treatment that I have received has not come from anyone white on this dais. That is the truth. So please take racism out of the narrative, because I have not felt any racism being on this council at all. None whatsoever. And the treatment I've been treated, the way I've been treated since I've been on this council in the last 4 years has been appalling. Has been appalling. And it has not come from anyone white on this council. So I want the residents to know that 100%. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice President Russell. I kind of struggled with this because, you know, there are times when we come to these meetings and things are civil, and today was one of those days, you know, where you come in. But I got to tell you, way too many times when I come to these meetings, you could cut the tension with a knife. And I think we all feel it, and I certainly hear it from the vast majority of this council. So I am going to tell you why. Even though I don't really want to get into this, I think I owe you to tell you why I'm going to vote in favor of this resolution. For me, the 2025 budget fiasco was a turning point in my loss of confidence in the mayor. While council was diligently scrutinizing this budget, and that's arguably our most important job, the mayor chose to be combative instead of being a partner. He called members of council stupid, ignorant liars at the December 19th meeting, instead of working with council on a temporary budget. The mayor chose to insult residents who spoke on December 19th in support of council's temporary budget by calling them sycophants. Very dismissive, instead of just listening. The mayor chose to cuss out a resident in the hallway right after the December 19th meeting instead of just letting it go. The mayor chose to watch his wife cuss at Councilman Cobb while he was speaking that same night and didn't say anything. The mayor chose to use city resources to, I believe, gaslight the community about council's motivation for passing the temporary budget. He called it politics, even though council gave the mayor 17 valid reasons for voting for a temporary budget. Actually, when you hear the mayor or most people, when they say, oh, that's just politics, actually dismissing council's legitimate reasons as politics is a very political thing to do. Very political. Earlier in the day on December 19th, on that same day we voted for the temporary budget, Councilwoman Russell and I met with the mayor at noon in the conference room. And I said to the mayor, I know you're against this temporary budget, and I think most of council is for it. So why don't we just come out and tell everybody how we feel, but at the end of the meeting, let's talk about unity. Let's talk about how we're going to work together. You know, you could say, I'm not for this. We could say we are for this, but let's just talk about unity. That was about a 2-minute conversation on my part. I started the conversation. The first thing out of the mayor's mouth when I stopped talking was, did you know that Heights Dems is running a candidate against me? And I mean, it was a complete non sequitur, complete non sequitur. It's a tactic people use to try to throw the person off that they're talking to. Just like I said, I texted him, are you okay? And then this complete non sequitur came out. It's the same type of thing. And by the way, at our last leadership meeting with the mayor and Vice President Russell was talking about being the worst treated person on council. Davita Russell was in the room for about 30 seconds when she raised her index. The mayor was actually talking when I was already in the conference room during this leadership meeting. She was about 2 minutes behind me. She walked in the room, the mayor was in mid-sentence, and she put her index finger next to her face and said, wait, are you talking about? And immediately he interrupted her and shouted, you shut up, top of his lungs. Bunch of F-bombs came after that. Then he called Vice President Russell and I pathetic. I'm not confused about the gaslighting either when the mayor said, you believe the white man. He said this to her when he pulled up a Facebook post where Vice President Russell had made a comment about how she supported the former city administrator, Dan Horrigan. How can I have confidence in a mayor that acts one way in public and a completely different way in private? And to be clear, this is not an isolated incident. I have seen Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde many, many times. But to be candid, my confidence was shaken very early on with this administration. I don't want you to think this is something that just came around the last 6 months. When we took office, the council clerk actually worked for the mayor. That was the way our government was set up. I know it sounds weird, clerk of council, but they worked for the mayor, hired and supervised by the mayor. So I decided to put this on the ballot on actually a charter amendment. And so I began working on that amendment, and I kept emailing and calling because I wanted to get information from the administration about how, how the clerk of council was chosen and what their duties were and so forth, because I was looking to make that change, but I was completely ignored over and over again. And eventually I just started cold calling other municipalities, not knowing anything about them or any of the people, and just saying, hey, we have a new form of government in Cleveland Heights. Can you help us with this clerk of council, with the duties and maybe a job description and so forth? And you wouldn't have believed the overwhelmingness of strangers to help me. They were like pushing each other out of the way. I couldn't get help from the place where I work. I was completely ignored. And these strangers, as a matter of fact, one of them, the Beechwood clerk of council, is now one of Addie's best friends, and she continues to help us over and over again. Again, a complete stranger to me. I'm just not confident anymore that the mayor will be accountable or responsive on a host of issues. I saw a Cleveland.com article where they list like 15 things that have happened in the last several months. all really happened. Now, I want to say the mayor absolutely, somebody else mentioned this, I think it was Mr. Bates, I'm not sure, but this mayor has done some really good things. The renovation to the city buildings, including what you see going on here, the Lead Safe initiative, the many efforts to create a more sustainable Cleveland Heights, his relentless advocacy for the LGBTQ community are just among a few of them. But the mayor's inability to retain staff, get along with council, the school board, and so many of our residents does not inspire confidence. And it's the residents I hear from most often. So many of them have lost confidence in the mayor to be accountable, responsive, and deliver the services they so richly deserve. To summarize, the bad has begun to outweigh the good. And that is why I'm supporting this resolution. To be totally candid, I saw red flags from the very beginning, but I wanted this government to succeed. But it's just gotten out of control lately, and because of that, because council speaks in resolutions and ordinances, I will be supporting this resolution. Eddie, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Chair, if I could please have a moment to provide commentary in the discussion.
I'm going to have the
Mr.
roll
Chair,
called
it's
first.
actually a charter provision that I am allowed
I'm not saying you can. I'm not saying
in
you
the
can.
discussion of items before the council.
ahead, Mayor.
So if I could please be included, thank you. So I don't anticipate that anything that I say will change any of the minds of the council members who intend to pursue this particular path. And that is your choice. That is your prerogative. I remember there was a time when I was sitting in one of those seats when a majority of the council felt that it was important to censure me as a council member. And I recognize they had their opinions. They had their positions. I felt that their positions were not grounded in fact or good faith, but they had the prerogative to do what they were going to do, and nothing would dissuade them. I think we're in the same position here. I feel that your position is not grounded in fact, and your position is not grounded in good faith. That is my belief about what you're doing here today. But I would like to say, since I don't believe that my comments will sway or move you, a lot of people have been saying that they speak for employees, that they speak for the employees of the city. I don't believe that I speak for the employees of the city, but I have felt a great deal of love and support from the people who work here with me. And I want to let them know that I'm still here working with you. I know that a lot of this is distracting, but we are getting the job done. And I am proud of each and every one of you who is weathering this and continuing to move the mission of this organization forward. I don't believe that this sort of general campaign of speaking for employees and providing anonymous reports of some widespread issue here in City Hall or throughout the organization is going to be successful. And I want all of you to know, people who sacrifice time, who do hard work here in the city of Cleveland Heights, I want all of you to know that I will not stop working with you. I will continue doing my own hard work to make sure that all of you can successfully accomplish your goals. And to the residents of the city, anybody here, anybody watching, I want you to know that no matter what, I am still dedicated to doing my best to put this city on the right path. When I took this office, there was the expectation that a mayor would be able to behave as a mayor. And what that means is leading a city. That means proposing a vision, having the voters of the city believe in that vision and select that vision for implementation. And that vision includes a systematic revamp of this city organization. It includes preparing us for the climate crisis that will impact every single one of us. It means leading us into a new way of thinking about development and how we use our space here in the city of Cleveland Heights so that we are not left behind as we have been for the last 20 years. I am still dedicated to that vision. I'm still dedicated to that mission. No matter the confidence that individual council members have in me, I also believe that all of you will continue working with me. Even as you have lost confidence, we will still get the work of the city done, just like we have this evening, where I've put things before you for your consideration, and you are looking at them and hopefully approving many of these things. I will continue to do that work to move our city forward, and I am appreciative to all the residents and all the city workers who have shown me care and support through this. With that, council, do your worst.
All righty. Eddie, would you please call the roll on this?
Before I do that, I just want to correct, I did say introduced by Councilmember Petrus, but it has also been co-sponsored by President Kuda, Vice President Russell, Council members Cobb, Larson, and Posh. Give me 1 second. Cobb.
Aye.
Maddox.
No.
Kuda.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Petrus.
Aye.
Russell. Posh.
Yes.
All right.
All right, next I have resolution 112-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Alltech Industries, Inc. for the acquisition of an Alltech articulating aerial truck for the forestry division of the Department of Public Works and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 114-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Technology Install Partners LLC for design, purchase, installation, and support of a new security and alarm system at the city's community center and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Aye. Second. Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
And I believe that's it for first read.
Well, 113 is going to be first reading only.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
We'll do it later. You guys just all right, I have ordinance number 104-2025 on first reading, and ordinance amending section 1345.03 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, entitled Notice of Violation, Legal Service, No Notice for Emergency or Same Prior Violation, introduced by Councilmember Petrus.
So moved.
Nope, we're not doing these ones.
All right.
All right. Next, I have resolution number 105-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to submit the Community Development Block Grant 5-year consolidated plan and the annual action plan and entitlement application for the year beginning January 1st, 2025, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin. I have resolution number 106-2025 on first reading, a resolution to adopt the solid waste management plan for the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste Management District. And I believe you're referring that one to.
Yes, that'll be referred to municipal services.
And next I have ordinance number 107-2025 on first reading, an ordinance amending chapter 131 to add provisions for equity pay adjustments and benefits for the chief of police and fire departments and assistant fire chief, introduced by all city council members. Next, I have resolution number 108-2025 on first reading, a resolution determining that support of the 2025 Heights Music Hop is in furtherance of a valid public purpose, awarding $7,500 to Future Heights, Inc. in support of the 2025 Heights Music Hop, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by President Kuda. I have ordinance number 109-2025 on first reading, an ordinance adopting the Park Synagogue S2 development plan and standards and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin. And I believe you're also putting that one to me.
That's referred to planning. Yes, thank you.
I have resolution number 110-2025 on first reading, a resolution of support and appreciation for the Cleveland Heights City staff, introduced by all city council members. I have ordinance number 113-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Classic Chevy GMC of Madison for the acquisition of a 2024 Chevy Silverado 500 crew cab with 11-inch SS dump for the street division of the Department of Public Works and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin. And I have ordinance number 111-2025 on first reading, and ordinance amending ordinance number 023-2025, an ordinance establishing salary schedules, position classifications, and other compensation and benefits for officers and employees of the city to create the position of Deputy Director of Law and to provide for compensation for the city's ADA coordinators, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin. And I do believe,
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 111-2025 tonight.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Because I know we discussed it in committee of the whole, but
I'm not quite sure if my colleagues knew that this was something we shifted up. And so if anyone had any questions about why we did that, as I
Or
know
any
this was originally
reservation.
on first reading.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, in that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. Now on to second readings.
all right. I have resolution number 097-2025 on second reading, a resolution expressing support for the Myers Manor Transitional Living Facility for Homeless Women with Children project, introduced by Vice President Russell.
Okay, and I'm referring that to finance.
And finally, I have ordinance number 063-2025 on third reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a real estate purchase agreement for the sale of certain vacant real property located on South Overlook Road and Cedar Road, consisting of approximately 0.54 acres and identified as permanent parcel numbers 685-24-001 and 685-24-033 in the Cuyahoga County records, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
Director Hannah, we just read the real estate purchase South Overlook and Cedar Road. I've never seen this happen before, so I just have to ask you, I've never seen a developer come up and withdraw, but how does that work?
Before the law director opines, I would like to offer this. I introduced this to council. What I'd like to do is ask council to hold, and I'd like to confer with Assistant Director Anderson and Director Zanft and see if we can have a conversation and maybe sort of in a clearer-eyed moment with Mr. Volpe, sort of have a different conversation and try to sort out some of the issues so that the project doesn't necessarily die. I think I can't speak for Mr. Volpe, but I think that it's important for us to revisit his decision. This was not something that I'm aware of was discussed in advance of this meeting. I can certainly understand a little bit of his frustration about the time frame. This has been a very long discussion. This has been a very long discussion as it relates to sort of our collective discussion in seeing this through. And so I would like to at least have a chance to revisit this sort of in the light of the morning, perhaps, and see if we can come to a resolution that doesn't involve doing damage, additional damage to the city's impression that we give to developers. So I would like another chance to have a conversation before. And so if the council would just hold this instead of me withdrawing it or council voting.
No, it is your legislation, and I'm fine with, I wouldn't want to withdraw it on anybody's behalf. Did you want to weigh in on this?
No, just procedurally, that's one of the options. The mayor could withdraw it as the sponsor. Council could vote it down, or council could read it and take no action, which is what the mayor is requesting.
I just want to say for the record, we were not going to vote tonight. That was not going to happen. So we'll just wait and see, I guess, maybe perhaps at the next meeting. Okay, all right. Where are we now? I think we're at committee reports. All right, let's fly through this. Councilwoman Larson?
Actually, Mr. President, my apologies. I need to leave, and I just wanted to apologize for, I guess it's not an early exit, given the time. But I do need to leave, and so I just wanted to express my apologies for not being able to stay to the end.
All right, let's see. Councilwoman Larson?
Thank you. The Finance Committee will be meeting tomorrow evening, June 3rd at 5:30 p.m. We have a full agenda, including discussion of financial reporting, status of the 2023 audit, and Vice Chair Maddox will be updating us on lending programs available to underserved neighborhoods. Municipal Services Environmental Sustainability Committee will meet Wednesday, June 11th at 10 a.m. to consider the legislation introduced tonight as Resolution 106-2025, a resolution to adopt the solid waste management plan for the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste Management District, and the district will be in the meeting as well as Director Klingscale.
Councilman Petrus?
Thank you, Mr. President. The next meeting of the Housing and Building Committee is on Monday, June 9th at 5:30 p.m. here on the second floor of City Hall. One other thing to note is that this evening we had the first reading for a piece of legislation that the Housing Committee was working on throughout the year. We talked with a number of housing advocates, and one of the things that many of them mentioned was that we need to do a better job at making people aware of available assistance programs whenever they're cited for housing violations. So that's something that this legislation will help to improve. So hopefully we'll have a vote at our next meeting on June 16th. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Anybody on this side with a committee report? All right, Vice President Russell.
Thank you, President Kuda. The Planning and Development Committee will meet on Wednesday, June 4th at 10:30 a.m. Also, I am so happy to announce that I was able to go with the Noble Road Merchants to the Cuyahoga County building where they had a hearing to receive $10,000 to start up their merchants associations, and they presented very well. It was just warm to see them bring their budget, their whole 9 yards. They will be presenting to our committee on Wednesday at 10:30 so that we can allocate some ARPA funds to help them start it up as well. Also, I'll have a pathway to home ownership on Monday, June 9th at 5:30 p.m. at the Noble Road Library, where the Home Resource Center will be there to give everyone updates regarding any ARPA funds, any grants, any loans, home repair, exterior repair, so on and so on. And I just want to say I can't believe that we have a temporary agreement with the pool for Cleveland Heights School pool. So hopefully that agreement, with our fingers crossed.
We don't know yet. But
I know, but hopefully, I'm praying, hopefully that agreement will go forward to a full agreement. So that's my report.
all right, let's keep hope alive. Old business. Any old business? Any new business? All right, one thing for new business from me. I don't know if you guys know Jack Boyle passed away last week. He was mayor of Cleveland Heights somewhere around 1970. I don't have the exact date with me. I should have brought it, but I want to send my condolences out to his wife, Mary, and his family. He served in Cleveland and lived in Cleveland Heights for a long time. He and his family moved actually kind of recently to Shaker. I would like to do a resolution, unless there's any objection, I would like to do a resolution and send it to his family. Get it ready for the 16th, if that's okay. All right, thank you very much. Council member comments. Councilman Maddox.
Just a couple of things. I want to remind everybody that we have several celebrations coming up in the community. You can go right to the city's website between Juneteenth and our Pride celebrations. There's so much happening across the community, and so I want to make sure that you stay connected. That's number one. Number two, tonight, I know many of you saw that I was recording during public comments. From here on out, my team is going to juxtapose any comments where it looks like something untrue was said and stated to the actual facts, and it's going to connect back to those meetings where those statements were made. We're not going to play any games anymore, and we want to make sure that we're transparent in everything I do. So my team just texted me a moment ago, and they do have those videos cured. They're going to pop those up on our website and all over social media. From here on out, I don't want you taking my word for it. If I said that I said something or didn't say something, I want you to see the video so that it's accurate. And so we're going to be comparing any public comments, any comments made from this dais to what actually happened in prior meetings from here on out. We're going to do this the rest of the year. I think it's going to drive transparency and truth from here on out across this council and this community. I want to make sure that we have a very clear way to divide fact and fiction. Again, I'm not playing games with you. I ran and I'm here now on transparency. I don't have a reason to lie. I'm not scared of anybody. So I want to make sure that this stuff is out there. And so shout out to my team for continuing to watch these meetings and put these things together. They're going to start to do that in real time starting next week. So I appreciate everyone that holds that ladder and makes that possible for me. The third thing I want to do is just celebrate the entire class of 2025, of which my son is a graduate at Cleveland Heights High School, but all of our graduates this year as well. I want to wish you well. Wish you a prosperous future, and just know that we're rooting for you, and we're believing great things for you in your future. And we're just excited about what you're going to bring to the table and to our communities and to our country. And so please be safe, enjoy yourself. I know some of you guys are still in school, but just know that we are so proud of you and the work that you do. And thank you to all of our teachers and administrators who make that possible. My son graduated not just because of what my wife and I did, but so many people throughout the school district that made that happen, from Oxford to Monticello to Heights. And so thank you guys so much for the work that you do for all of our babies. Thank you.
All right. Any other council comments?
I want to ditto that. I want to say congratulations to all the 2025 graduates as well. And my last statement and comment is good night.
Councilman Petrus. No, he's waving me off. All right. I just want to say for the council president's report, first of all, thank you all for coming and staying and passionately coming up and sharing your thoughts with us. We really appreciate that, and we want you to know this is always a place where you can come and address council. I want to say that I like what the mayor said at the end there, that we will continue to do our jobs. I want you to know that 99% of the time, this council has voted with the mayor. And I mean literally 99%. 7 no votes out of way more than 750 pieces of legislation. So we will continue to do our jobs. The last thing I want to do, and it's because I spent a little bit too much time on Facebook this week. I know it's bad for your health, and I realize that, but there's this psychological gymnastics that goes on that is very disturbing. And occasionally it does happen here. We're not immune from it. I looked up the word gaslighting because it just resonated so much with some things I see. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse whereby a person, or perhaps their minions, attempt to manipulate one or more people into questioning their perception of reality. Think of how insidious that is when somebody chooses to do that. People who gaslight may intentionally use this form of abuse to exert power or control over others with the goal of manipulating them. Emotional confusion appears to be the base of a gaslighter's agenda. And I just want to end today with saying, do not fall for it. This meeting is adjourned.